¿Qué tal? ¿Cómo están? Un gusto acompañarlos en esta entrevista Sonar. Hoy una eminencia del neo-prog rock, el rock progresivo finalmente en Chile, Bruce Soord de Fine Apple Thief. Bruce, how's it going? Finally, a proper Fine Apple Thief show in Chile.
Well, I know. Yeah. We're all like really excited to finally, like you say, to finally be coming to Chile. I bet people don't believe we're actually going to come this time, but we really are going to come. I mean, we're really sorry for the last couple of cancellations, but it's nice because the last show was a metal festival that was cancelled. So I think it's better that we were able to come and do a headline show. So yeah, we're landing, and we will be there.
Bruce, let's talk about your trademark sound. The Pineapple Thief has often been categorized, of course, in this label under prog rock through your sound in general, in reality, is quite distinctive from the traditional prog rock. You know what I mean? Do you embrace that label or do you feel it limits how your music is perceived?
I think in the early days it did limit because I think the whole prog rock genre has I think it's developed now and it's so broad that if you say, look, you're a prog rock band, people will say, okay, so what kind? What kind of prog rock? Are you doing prog metal? Are you Dream Theater? Or are you doing, Pink Floyd? Are you doing psychedelic or whatever? It's so broad that no, I don't mind. I don't mind because I grew up listening to '70s prog bands. Pink Floyd, Rush, Yes, and so that did influence the songwriting. But like you say, we're not that kind of traditional prog rock band either. So yes, difficult, very hard.
And is there any current band that you feel inspired to work on new music tunes or?
No, I mean, no, it's funny because I think as an artist and as a songwriter, the last thing I want to do is be influenced by any one contemporary. And so, but I do because I'm in my studio now, so I do lots of work. I do a lot of surround sound mixes. So I did the last Leprous surround sounds, and I've just done Catatonia. So I've been listening to all that kind of stuff a lot, and so you can't help but think, listen to that and think, that's interesting. What Leprous are doing is interesting, and the new Catatonia is beautiful. So all that it's just it does. You can't help but be influenced by it.
Well, one of the main reasons of this tour, besides your trademark sound, your career for more than 25 years, is your latest album. It leads to this, an album that has been described as potentially your finest work. What specific elements do you believe contribute to these acclaimed critics, this acclaimed perception worldwide?
All right. Well, I'm glad that is. I mean, you obviously always want your new stuff to be the. I think for me, the current format that we got with Gavin, there's five of us that play live. We've been together now for sort of nearly 10 years, and you're starting. So you really is the bond that you have, the chemistry that you have is starting to really feel natural. Especially with the last record, we get on so well as a group. And I think that comes across with the music, the chemistry that we've got. And the songwriting has developed. I say allow, but the band is now, everyone contributes. I spent some time with Gavin in his studio and we wrote together. And so the whole process is just evolving and maturing. So hopefully, yeah, that comes across. And it certainly does. I think it comes across in the live show as well. I think people see that. They see that there are a bunch of guys that, even though the music's quite melancholic, they see that we're having fun.
Incredible. Also, you, if my memory doesn't fail, Bruce, also you describe it leads to this as a deeply introspective, introspective
Yeah.
record, looking back at albums like, I don't know, going back to Dissolution and Someone Here is Missing. Do you see this as the natural continuation of those dams or a new emotional chapter entirely?
I think it's a bit of both. I think I can't, I don't, the one thing when I'm songwriting is it has to be, there's lots of I's and we's, in the music. It's you, I, and me, because it's all about the things that I experience. So every album
Hmm.
is almost like a snapshot of the world at that time. And so I think it leads to this. I mean, I remember when we did Dissolution, we were sort of thinking what's going on in the world, you know, and you look at the world and you look at your people close to you and you take that and you write. Um, and then when we did It Leads to This, we're thinking, oh my goodness, it was bad enough, you know, it's even worse now, you know, what's happening in the world. And you look at my family and, you know, what the future have they got? You take all that and that becomes the emotion behind the music. So yeah, that's all. I think that's the only way I can write. I can't make stuff up. It has to be something that's really close to me to be able to write it.
Bruce, let's switch topics a little bit. Let's talk about a very interesting topic related to the current state of the music industry. Because your peers haven't been active in the music industry for decades. So I want to know, what do you think has changed the most for independent bands like yours, both positively and negatively?
Well, I think the positive side of things is it's very, very easy to get, there's so many channels to get your music heard. So if you've done something good, you can get it out to people. You know, you've got this, you know, people will criticize streaming. And you know, as an artist, you don't get paid. You know, it's very, but you can't make a living from streaming. But it does allow people to hear it. So the people who stream, if they come to a show then and buy a T-shirt, then that's a lot more for the band than selling a CD or vinyl. So it swings and it swings and roundabouts. I think that the live scene has got better. I think that's one thing that's really improved. Everyone will talk about the fact that physical sales have gone down. Obviously, CDs they're going down a bit like cassettes in the 70s, but vinyl's going up. So you know, I don't think it's all doom. It's not all doom and gloom.
And the CDs too are back, and the
they're going
CD
up
as a format too,
yeah,
are back.
they are back, are they? Right, good. I'm glad. And also there's the surround sound. You know, there's a lot of people getting excited about Dolby Atmos and things like that, which we always release stuff on. So there's lots of exciting things compared to the early days, where the only way you could really get your music out there was a record label, and they would send it to record shops. So it was a lot harder. Only a chosen few could actually get a record deal and then get out and tour. If you didn't have the record deal, touring was very, very hard, and it was hard for us in the early days. So I think now, you know, if you've got the songs, I honestly believe that you can get the audience because you've got the channels to do it. That's the positive side of the modern music business, I'd say.
You just mentioned as a very positive factor in this actual period of music industry, Dolby Atmos. Having working extensively with Dolby Atmos, do you find yourself composing music differently, thinking spatially from the start, or is it something that comes later in production?
A bit of both. I think with Pineapple Thief, it's probably you're really more focused on how it's going to work live. So now we play what we play in the studio now is we don't want to think, oh, how are we going to do that live? We're going to have backing tracks or whatever. So with the Pineapple Thief, I think the Dolby Atmos thing does come later. But when I do other things like my solo music, I do think about the Dolby Atmos. So when I'm putting parts down, I'm thinking, oh yeah, that's going to really work well, you know, floating around the room, or that's going to be at the back, or that's going to, you know. So yeah, it's a bit of both.
This Dolby Atmos thing changed totally the experience of got immersed in a high quality of sound. So, but there is in the other way, as you said, in the other way of things, streaming is the streaming services are dominating the industry.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, and music getting paid correctly. I was wondering, what I was wondering if do you still think of music in terms of complete albums, or do you find yourself adapting to the single driven landscape?
Yeah, no, I'm still romantic, so I'm still an album guy. And I've got two kids. I've got two twin kids. They're 18, And so they're saying, oh, blah, blah's dropping a song. They're dropping a song this month
Mm.
and drop a song every month, Dad. That's the way to do it. And I say, no, we can't. I mean, I think I've been doing it for too long now, where we have this concept of getting together and having a group of songs that belong together and are
Mm.
delivered in a package. And I still love the idea of releasing an album where people can buy the vinyl and the special edition. The special edition with all the booklets and the extra Blu-rays and to have that product, I think is still really important. And thankfully, people are still buying them. So yeah, I think the album's definitely not dead yet.
Fortunately,
Yeah, yeah,
I love that. I'm a classic guy too, so
yeah.
hope so. Well, going back, insisting on Dolby Atmos, this Dolby Atmos technology, do you see it becoming a standard in music production, not just the avant-garde rock musicians, for example? Do you see it becoming this Dolby Atmos thing a standard in music production, given that artists and bands have started to use it progressively more each time?
Yeah, I think it's definitely being used a lot more. I think people have learned a lot, especially with the streaming side of Dolby
Yeah.
Atmos. So it's complete. So when you're mixing for Dolby Atmos, it's like you've got to have two heads. One to how's it going to sound streaming in headphones, which is obviously not anywhere near the experience you have when you're in a studio with speakers all around you. So there's two very different experiences. But yeah, I think so. I think that bands, they would all, if they could, they would all love to put a Dolby Atmos mix out as well. So I think we'll have to wait and see. But it's certainly, I think a lot of people thought when it first started, they thought, well, this is just a fad. It's not going to last. But it's still here, and it's still, you still see bands, all the big bands, they will always have the Dolby Atmos. So we certainly do.
Bruce, some bands find that certain songs transform entirely when played live. Have any of your recent songs, maybe some of your recent albums, surprised you in how they evolve on stage?
Yeah, so I mean, from the new record, I think the title track, it leads to this, is the one that's really, really come alive on stage, and you can just tell because that you have this relationship with the audience where
It leads
when
to
things,
this, right?
yeah, yeah. So it leads to this, and there's other tracks from. I mean, we did some back catalogue songs where Gavin came in. There's some tracks from the All the Wars record called "Give It Back," which just sounds completely different when we play it live. So yeah, and it's really nice to go back and play the Your Wilderness songs. There's this probably that. I mean, one of our sort of I'd say one of our biggest, most popular songs is a track called "The Final Thing on My Mind," and that has developed and matured so much. That's so much so that when I play the studio version, I'm like, oh, this hasn't really quite got the same kind of magic as the current live version.
Bruce, as you know, obviously, and we know, this tour includes country you never played before,
Yeah.
like Chile, obviously. And I want to know, how do you approach engaging the audience unfamiliar with your live performance? And obviously, this is a cliche at this point of the road. What can people expect from this concert?
Well, the one thing I'm doing is every time we play Spain and Mexico and now Chile is to really get my Spanish. Really get my Spanish. It's improving so I can actually interact with the crowd. So that's important for me to be able to do that. So I think what they can expect from us is just a really. I think they're going to see that how happy we are to actually finally be on stage, and I'm just hoping that the atmosphere is. I do what I know. The atmosphere is going to be really beautiful.
And
Yeah.
and what is your favorite word in Spanish? Not the typical.
Uh,
Any
no, well,
dirty
it was.
word?
It was. I'm gonna have to swat up on it now, but it was. Oh, what is it? It translates as uh, the. I'm trying to remember it now because we just did this show in Mexico
Which one?
where um, in Mexico City, where you do where it's almost like an insult, but you shout it and everyone but it's
An
not, and
insult, an insult.
yeah,
Ah, there is
but it's
tons of
not.
insults.
It's
Per-
not an insult though. It's the translation is, oh yeah, I can't. I can't. I'm gonna have to revisit my little phrase book that I've written down for the tour.
Bueno, here in Chile, you could say the "Hola, weones." It's,
Okay,
hey, suckers,
that
how's it going?
yeah, I would
Hey,
definitely say
fuckers.
that. Yeah,
Okay, Bruce. It's been a pleasure. Could you do ID for us? We are Radio Sonar,
yeah,
SONAR. Hi, this is Bruce Soord from the Pineapple Thief, and you're listening and watching Radio Sonar. Can't wait to see you guys on this upcoming gig in Santiago. Something like that. Thank you.
yeah, yeah. Okay. Hi, I'm Bruce Soord from the Pineapple Thief. You're listening to and or watching Radio Sonar, and we can't wait to finally come over to Santiago to play our first show in Chile. So see you soon.
It's been a pleasure. Definitely, we see you on the road and backstage. Thank you.
Lovely. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It'd be great to meet you.
Bye.
All right. Cheers. Bye.